Emma had been sitting in her small apartment all afternoon, the rain tapping gently on the window, scrolling through her phone when a message from Jake appeared. Her heart skipped a beat. They had been friends since college, and she had always felt a connection with him, a warmth that no one else seemed to understand. But tonight the message felt heavier, more urgent than usual. It read, "Hey, can you help me with something tonight? It's personal, and I really need you." She stared at the words, unsure what he meant. Her stomach twisted with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She knew him well, but the hint of seriousness made her heart pound. By the time she reached his apartment, the rain had soaked her coat, but she barely noticed. Her mind was on him, on the thought of being alone with Jake in his space, a place filled with books, memories, and the faint scent of coffee. He opened the door with a hesitant smile, the usual ease between them replaced with something heavier, more fragile. He asked her to sit on the couch, and she felt a strange flutter in her chest, a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Jake handed her a folder filled with letters, photographs, and messages. Emma felt a shiver run through her. She realized this was more than just a favor. This was him letting her into a part of his life he had never shown anyone, a personal history tangled with secrets and emotions. She opened the first envelope carefully, her fingers trembling slightly, and as she read, she felt the weight of his trust, the responsibility of holding these pieces of his life. Hours passed quickly, but they didn't feel long. The rain outside kept falling, a soft rhythm that seemed to match their quiet conversation. They laughed softly at memories in the photos, shared small smiles, and sometimes fell into comfortable silences that felt more intimate than words could explain. Emma noticed the closeness, the way he leaned slightly toward her when he spoke, the way his eyes held hers longer than necessary, and she felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't expected. At one point, Jake paused, his hand hovering over another envelope. He looked at her with a shadow of worry, and his voice dropped. "Emma, there's something I haven't told you, something that might change how you see me." Emma's heart raced, curiosity mixed with fear. She wanted to ask, to press for details, but the seriousness in his tone made her hesitate. The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken tension. They continued sorting through the letters, each one revealing a piece of his past, moments of happiness, mistakes, regrets, and love lost. Emma listened carefully, offering gentle comments, her own emotions shifting as she realized how deeply she cared for him, how much she wanted to protect him, to understand him, to be the person he could lean on. The hours blurred together, and she forgot the world outside, immersed in the fragile intimacy of shared stories and silent glances. Then, without warning, Jake's phone buzzed loudly, the sudden sound breaking the fragile bubble they had created. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed. The name displayed made Emma freeze. It was a woman, someone Emma didn't know, but she felt an uneasy pull in her stomach, a small pang of fear she couldn't ignore. He answered quietly, and the conversation was soft, tense, and hurried, his words careful, polite. But Emma could feel the strain, the distance it created between them. After the call, he returned to the couch, but the mood had shifted, the closeness replaced by a quiet tension. Emma tried to focus on the folder again, but her thoughts kept drifting to the woman, to Jake's reaction, to the hidden layers of his life that she had never seen before. She realized that, even though she trusted him, there were pieces of his world she wasn't allowed to see yet, pieces that might change everything. Despite the unease, they continued working, and Emma noticed small things about Jake she had never truly seen. The way his fingers brushed over the paper with care, the gentle tilt of his head when he explained a memory, the softness in his eyes when he looked at her. She felt a mixture of admiration and longing, emotions she had buried over the years, feelings that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. By the time they finished the first set of letters, the rain had stopped, Leaving the world outside wet and reflective, the apartment felt quiet, almost sacred, as if it held all the confessions and memories they had just uncovered together. Jake leaned back on the couch, a tired but gentle smile on his face, and Emma realized how connected she felt, how much trust he had placed in her, and how fragile this closeness could be. Before she could ask about the phone call, Jake's words cut through the silence. "Emma, I should tell you more. I should be honest about everything, but I don't know how." And Emma's heart thudded painfully, a mix of hope and fear coursing through her. She wanted him to tell her, wanted to know the truth, but also feared what she might discover. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension almost unbearable, each lost in thought, both aware that something had shifted between them, something that could change their friendship forever. Emma realized that this night, this request to help with his personal life, had opened a door to emotions, secrets, and perhaps love that she hadn't expected. And just as she was about to speak, to ask the question burning in her mind, Jake looked at her with a seriousness she had never seen, his eyes searching hers. "Emma, there's something I haven't told you, something that changes everything," he whispered, and her heart froze. At that exact moment, the phone buzzed again, the name on the screen glinting ominously in the dim light, and Emma felt a chill, knowing that the story she had walked into was far from simple, that the night she had spent helping Jake had only begun to reveal the truth, a truth that could change everything she thought she knew about him, about herself, and about the delicate bond growing between them. The day after that tense evening, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Jake, the way he had looked at her, the pause before his words, and most of all, the phone call she had glimpsed. She tried to distract herself at work, typing reports and answering emails, but her mind kept drifting back to him, to the folder of letters, to the trust he had placed in her, and to the woman's name flashing on his phone. The thought twisted inside her chest like a knot. By evening, her phone buzzed again. It was Jake, asking if she could come over. He sounded hesitant, almost vulnerable, and despite her nervousness, Emma felt the pull, the desire to be there, to help, to understand. She agreed, and as she walked through the rainy streets toward his apartment, her heart beat faster, each step heavy with anticipation. When she arrived, the apartment felt colder somehow, the soft glow of the lamps barely warming the room. Jake handed her another folder, but his eyes kept flicking nervously toward the phone on the table. Emma sensed the tension, the unspoken truths hovering between them. She took the folder, her hands brushing his briefly, a spark of warmth passing through her, and she felt her stomach twist. "Emma," Jake began, hesitating, "I need to be honest with you. I wasn't completely honest yesterday." She froze slightly, her mind racing. "There's someone else in my life," he said, his voice quiet, almost afraid. "I didn't know how to tell you." The words hit her like a wave, a mix of shock, betrayal, and a strange, unexplainable pull toward him. Emma's chest tightened, but she didn't leave. She stayed, sitting across from him, listening as he explained, slowly, carefully, the woman in his life, the complicated situation he was caught in, the obligations and emotions he hadn't known how to manage. She felt anger and sadness, but also a strange understanding, a desire to help him through it rather than walk away. They spent hours going through the folders, sorting letters, reading messages, and for a moment, the world outside didn't exist. The rain falling softly against the windows seemed to fade, leaving only them, the room filled with memories and confessions. Emma noticed the little things, the way his hand lingered over hers when passing papers, the soft way he thanked her, the quiet glances that felt heavier than words. She felt herself pulled deeper into a web of emotions she hadn't expected. At one point, Jake leaned back, exhausted, rubbing his forehead, and Emma realized how much this task had weighed on him. She wanted to comfort him, to tell him she was there, to make things easier, but she stayed silent, letting him rest, letting the moment speak, their silence full of tension, longing, and unspoken feelings. Then, as they were organizing another stack of letters, Jake's phone lit up again. A message from the same woman. Emma caught a glimpse of the name, sharp and precise, and her stomach sank. The reality of betrayal pressed into her chest. She looked at Jake, seeing the shame, the fear, and the conflict etched on his face, and she understood that the trust she had in him was fragile, tested by forces she hadn't fully seen before. Despite the tension, the work continued, and Emma noticed small gestures she hadn't before. The way he would glance at her when he thought she wasn't looking, the faint smile when their hands accidentally touched, the softness in his voice when he explained a memory. She felt herself drawn to him, even as doubt and fear lingered, a mixture of attraction and heartbreak building inside her. Later, as the evening deepened, the rain returned, pattering against the window, soft and steady. They sat side by side on the couch, letters scattered around them, and Emma felt the weight of the night, the secrets, the emotions pressing in. Jake's hand brushed hers as he reached for a folder, and she didn't pull away, the touch light but full of meaning, a silent confession of connection that neither spoke aloud. Suddenly, the phone buzzed again, louder this time, and Emma saw the message from the woman light up the screen. Her chest tightened, the betrayal real and immediate. She wanted to step back, to protect herself, but she stayed, watching Jake, who looked conflicted, torn between the woman on the screen and the presence of Emma beside him. The room felt smaller, the air thick with tension, desire, and unresolved emotions. Jake's voice broke the silence, soft, almost pleading. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." And Emma felt a mix of hurt and compassion, the longing in her chest growing stronger despite the betrayal. She realized she had cared for him more than she had admitted, that the connection between them wasn't just friendship, but something deeper, complicated, and dangerous for her heart. As they continued working, the letters revealing more memories, more secrets, Emma felt the tension shift, from fear and doubt to understanding and empathy. She could see the man behind the mistakes, the man torn between loyalty, desire, and circumstance, and she realized that her role wasn't just helping with letters, it was helping him, guiding him, being the person he could trust, the person he needed in a moment of weakness. Then, as if on cue, the lights flickered and the power went out, plunging the room into darkness, their faces barely visible in the dim glow from the city outside. A loud knock at the door startled them both, urgent, insistent, breaking the fragile bubble they had built. Emma's heart raced, unsure what would happen next, unsure if this was a turning point or the end of everything she had begun to feel. They froze, looking at each other, tension thick and heavy, the folder forgotten for the moment, and Emma realized that this night, this series of confessions and revelations, had changed everything between them. She couldn't ignore her feelings, but she also couldn't ignore the secrets, the woman in his life, or the fragility of trust. She felt caught between desire, hope, and heartbreak. As the knock came again, louder, more urgent, Emma's mind raced with possibilities, questions, and fears, and she knew that the next moments would force decisions, confessions, and perhaps a confrontation with truth, a moment that could define everything between her and Jake. She held her breath, realizing that the night of helping him had become the night that would change everything in her life, for better or worse. Emma's heart was pounding as the knock at the door came again, loud and insistent. She could feel her palms getting sweaty, the rain outside still pattering softly against the windows, and the room seemed smaller, tighter, as if it held all the tension, secrets, and emotions of the last few days. Jake stood frozen for a moment, glancing at her, his face a mix of fear, shame, and uncertainty. She could see the weight of the choice he was about to make. When Jake finally opened the door, The woman from the messages was there, her presence sharp and commanding. Emma instinctively stepped back, unsure how to act, unsure if she should leave or stay. The air between the three of them crackled with tension, and for a moment, Emma realized that the trust she had built with Jake, the connection they had shared, was now at risk. "Emma, I need you to understand." Jake started, his voice low, strained. "It's complicated, and I never meant for you to be caught in this." But the woman interrupted sharply, her tone cold. "Jake, why is she here? Why are you hiding her?" Emma felt a pang in her chest, the sharp reality of betrayal hitting her again, and she realized that the situation was more complex than she had imagined, more dangerous for her emotions than she had expected. For a moment, no one spoke, only the sound of rain and distant traffic, and Emma could feel her heart racing, her mind spinning with questions, doubts, and fears. She had come here to help, to support Jake, and now she found herself in the middle of a confrontation, one that could change everything between them, her feelings for him, and the fragile trust they had built. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Emma, I should have told you everything from the start, but I was scared. I didn't want to lose you as a friend, and I didn't know how to handle her or my own feelings." His voice cracked slightly, and Emma felt a mixture of anger and empathy. She wanted to be mad, to step away, but she also wanted to understand, to see the man behind the mistakes, the man she had slowly begun to care for deeply. The woman spoke again, her voice sharp but hurt. "Jake, this isn't fair to anyone. We can't keep hiding things." And Emma realized that the confrontation, as uncomfortable as it was necessary, a moment where truths came out, confessions were made, and emotions had to be faced. She stayed, silently watching, trying to process everything, her heart aching, but also growing stronger with clarity. Over the next hour, truths spilled out like water from a broken dam. Jake explained the complexity of his relationship with the woman, the obligations and emotions he hadn't known how to handle, and Emma listened, absorbing the reality, the mistakes, the choices that had led to this moment. She felt sadness, betrayal, but also a strange understanding, a desire to see him whole, to help him navigate the consequences of his actions. As the conversation unfolded, Emma realized that her role had shifted. She wasn't just helping him with letters or sorting memories. She was helping him face the truth, face himself, and face the consequences of his choices. She felt a quiet strength rising inside her, a determination not to let fear or betrayal define her, and a willingness to forgive, but only with honesty and boundaries. At one point, Jake reached for her hand, lightly, almost hesitantly, and Emma didn't pull away, the gesture small but meaningful, a silent acknowledgement of connection, of trust, of the bond they had built over shared hours, confessions, and quiet understanding. She felt warmth spread through her chest, a mix of relief, hope, and desire, emotions she hadn't fully allowed herself to feel until now. The woman finally left, after setting firm boundaries with Jake, and as the door closed, Emma and Jake sat in silence, the apartment quiet except for the rain, and Emma realized how much had changed, how the night of confrontation had clarified feelings, exposed truths, and created space for something new to begin. She looked at him, really looked, and saw not just the man who had betrayed her trust, but the man who had asked her to help, the man who had let her in, and the man who still cared. For her, Jake spoke softly. "Emma, I know I've made mistakes, but I need you to know how much I trust you, how much I value you." And Emma felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief and lingering heartbreak. She had been through doubt, fear, and tension, but she could see a path forward, one built on honesty, understanding, and mutual respect. In the early hours of the morning, the rain stopped, and the city lights reflected off wet streets. The apartment felt lighter. The weight of secrets lifted slightly, and Emma felt a quiet hope blossom inside her, a sense that despite betrayal and mistakes, there was room for trust, connection, and perhaps love. She realized that the night had not only tested her emotions, it had shown her strength, clarity, and the courage to forgive without losing herself. As Jake prepared coffee, Emma sat by the window, watching the empty streets, and she felt a strange calm, knowing that the confrontation, as painful as it had brought them to a new beginning, a fragile but real chance to build trust, respect, and something deeper. She understood that love wasn't just about passion or comfort. It was also about honesty, courage, and being willing to face mistakes together. When Jake handed her the cup, their fingers brushed, and Emma felt a spark, the kind that made the heart race. But this time, it was mixed with understanding, care, and patience, a recognition that what they had was fragile, but worth protecting, worth nurturing. A connection built on shared vulnerability and emotional honesty. Before leaving, Emma stood by the door, glancing back at him, and saw a man who had been honest, repentant, and open to change, a man who had asked for her help, trusted her with his past, and now, despite betrayal, was willing to face the future with her. She smiled softly, knowing that this story wasn't about perfect love, but real, messy, human emotions, and for the first time, she felt ready to step into it fully. As she walked into the quiet streets, damp from the rain, she felt a lightness in her chest, a mixture of longing, hope, and excitement, and she knew that what had started as a simple request for help had transformed her life, changed her heart, and opened a door to something new, something real, and perhaps something lasting. And in that moment, Emma realized that sometimes the hardest nights, the heaviest secrets, and the deepest betrayals could lead to understanding, trust, and love if hearts were willing to forgive and face the truth together.